Hello, and welcome to the Evelyn Y. Davis studios at the National Press Foundation. Want to tap C-SPAN's vast video library? The Public Affairs News Organization broadcasts congressional action and much, much more. And all of it is archived and searchable. Today, we'll learn how to access it from a C-SPAN media specialist. The National Press Foundation is a nonprofit dedicated to helping journalists cover complex topics with depth and accuracy. We serve journalists in the U.S. and around the world. I'm Chris Adams, Director of Training at the National Press Foundation. Today, some tips on how to bring your stories to life with video from C-SPAN's deep archive. Our guest is Jeremy Art, who is a social media senior specialist for the Public Affairs News Organization. He'll take us through the basics of searching within C-SPAN's massive digitized video library, which goes back to the late 1980s. And it's not just congressional floor speeches you can access. Think of all those panel discussions and newsmaker events held every day in Washington. Many of those are part of C-SPAN's library. Beyond searching, C-SPAN has tools that allow you to clip and embed those videos into your own stories. We'll learn how to do that as well. Jeremy, welcome.
Thanks so much for having me.
So the C-SPAN video library is a vast resource that journalists can use. But I was hoping to start out, you could give us a little sense of just the basics for those out there who don't use C-SPAN on a regular basis. Tell me a little bit about C-SPAN, kind of how long it's been around, and then the range of programming you have there.
So C-SPAN started as an idea from the cable television industry, and it remains a key public service of cable. And so 6 cents a month goes from everyone's cable bill to support C-SPAN. And C-SPAN now covers the House, the Senate, and then all sorts of public affairs events from Capitol Hill and across Washington, and when the campaign starts, across the country. And so it started on March 19th, 1979. In the middle of the 80s, we went live on C-SPAN 2 with the Senate, and then C-SPAN 3 came around then in the 90s. So now we have 3 active networks. Obviously, when Congress is in session, we are very busy covering the House, the Senate, and as many hearings as possible. And then when Congress is out of session, we're covering everything from think tanks, public affairs discussions, books, history, and then the campaign, which never seems to end now.
Right, and so all these things that you're covering outside of just straight congressional action, is all of that material available in the video library?
Yes, so in 1987, we started archiving everything, and that started with the Bork Supreme Court confirmation hearings. And so from the fall of 1987 until now, everything is archived regardless of whether it's congressional, government, the White House, or a think tank.
Okay, and so, I mean, since the Bork hearings in 1987, 100% of everything?
Yes, everything since then, and then we have some things before it that we were able to obtain in various ways. So we have various State of the Union, inaugural addresses, but we don't have every single briefing by the Speaker of the House before 1987.
Okay, and so I was hoping you could just give us, show us the website, show us the video archive, and just start to explain how a reporter covering their beat on a day-to-day basis can use it.
Sure. So here's our homepage, and the first thing I would say is anything that C-SPAN's covering today is probably going to be right here on the homepage. You don't really need to search in the way that we're going to show in a second. So all of our morning segments from the Washington Journal are going to be here. You can see the Senate Judiciary Committee, which is considering the nomination of Neil Gorsuch, which that hearing was last week with the judge himself. That's coming up today, as well as the House and the Senate sessions this afternoon, and our White House press briefing with Sean Spicer. So anything that's really happened today, you can find here on the homepage. Before we get into searching, I'm going to plug just having a C-SPAN account.
Okay.
And so I'll go to my C-SPAN login. I've already created an account, so I'll log in real quick. And I'm going to show the benefit of having this account in a second, but basically everything that I clip is going to be stored in one place. So if I create a number of clips on different stories or different topics, rather than having to save them in different Word documents or emails, they're all going to be in one place, so I can find them later today or 6 years from now, whatever I want. So that's kind of the basics of the homepage. I'd usually say if you're looking for something that you saw in the past 24 hours, start by looking here before you go too deep. But then we'll go to do a basic search. I'll search for someone pretty simple. It's been on C-SPAN a lot, not only just recently. That's Paul Ryan. We have all these categories when you do a search for things that come up. So if you type in a name or a place or a person or a topic, any number of these categories can be populated. We search for the person, so as you can see over here, Paul Ryan pops right up. Every single person that's been on C-SPAN has a page just like this on cspan.org, whether it's one appearance or, like the speaker, several hundred. If they're a member of Congress, it's got a map of their district. It's also got below some of their more recent appearances, what committees they've been on, votes they've had, and bills they've sponsored. If I go here to see more appearances, now we can do a search just of videos with the speaker. We'll give it just a second. So everything from his press conference last week announcing that they'd pulled the bill for the repeal and replacement of Obamacare. And if we go to least recent, we can see his first appearance on C-SPAN, which happened to be well before he was a congressman. It's when he was the legislative director for, I believe it was Senator Brownback.
And this date I saw was 1995, is that what it said?
Yes, correct. May 27th, 1995. So he may not have said anything on here particularly about health care, but it is fun if for no other reason than a good
will not exceed the amount of money
Throwback
that they're
Thursday.
spending out.
Okay.
They will go bankrupt in 2001.
And when you're searching, Ryan is a keyword search. Is this also a full transcript or just of keywords?
So you can go through a lot of these. Our transcript search doesn't go quite as far back as all of our videos. We're working on that, but a lot of the recent things. So if we go to his press conference from last week, we have down here the text. This is based on closed captioning of his press conference. So if you know a particular quote you're looking for, I'm going to see if this works. We're going to type in Obamacare. It'll probably pop up in here somewhere. Hang on, let's see. You can see Obamacare right here. He used it several times, and if you click on one of these, it should jump straight to
The
it.
bottom line is Obamacare right now remains the law.
So this is where he's asked
Is that going to
if
change
Obamacare,
in 2017?
basically it's still the law
Yeah,
of
I
the
don't know
land,
what
and
else
he
to
says
say other than Obamacare is the law of the land.
Pause that right
it's
there.
going to remain the
Once
law
you
of the
get
land
to
until
a
it's
point in the
replaced.
video where you want to clip it, so this entire press conference is 20 minutes long, but if you want to clip just this little section here, you can hit on clip. And basically, you've got a start time and end time, and you can see where your clip is. So I want to start this just before this, where you got the question, at about 5 minutes. So I'm going to take the start of the clip here and move it to right about there. Now I can keep watching.
We did not have quite the votes to replace this law. And so
I'm just going to drag this forward to about
Obamacare is
20.
going
We'll
to
take
be
the end clip. Let's go right about
Getting
there. So now I've got a
even
start
worse.
time and
Actually,
end
I
time.
think, we
I'm
were-
going to pause it as he does that. And I'll just say Speaker Ryan on Obamacare. And I will hit Save Clip. And once that does it, it says your clip is being created. I'll click on that, and we can see here that there's a clip that's created by me, and it's got the title and description I want, and instead of that 20-minute video, here's just 1 minute. And we won't watch this whole thing, but I always check it to make sure it works before I tweet it out, post on Facebook, or any number of
Consensus
things.
to get
This
there.
is also going to be embeddable, so if you're writing a story, you can embed it there with your story. It is also downloadable. You just click down here on your download list and choose what format you want.
Okay. And just a couple of specifics here. Using the service for anybody is free?
It is free, yes.
Okay. But it's more efficient if you actually create an account. If you haven't created an account, can you do the download and embed?
You can do the embed, but the download has to be sent to an account for you to
Okay.
download the files. So strongly recommend if you're going to be downloading, have an account so you can download them all especially from one place.
Okay, and the transcript searching, how soon after an event is the transcript actually available? Full transcripts?
So first of all, the transcript's not perfect. It's just based on closed captioning. I was doing searches of the transcript last week during Neil Gorsuch's confirmation hearing within a few hours of him doing it. So sometimes it's same day. It tends to be a little more refined and more up to date with time codes and whatnot the next day. But I was having great luck with it last week, searching for something that I'd missed just a few hours earlier.
We were just looking at Paul Ryan doing a press conference on Friday, but we could also obviously find committee sessions or floor statements.
Sure. So if you go to the homepage, right up here on top is the Congress tab. If you click on that, now you're just looking for things from Congress, the House floor, the Senate floor, and various briefings and committee hearings. So if you click on, let's just go to the House floor. These are just proceedings on the House floor, and I'll go to this one from last week. You can see that you can search not only the text, you can look at speakers. So if you want to see just what Kevin McCarthy said, that'll go straight to his talking points. You can also look at a graphical timeline. I'm going to deselect McCarthy. And this shows kind of the time in which everyone spoke. So here's all your 1-minute speeches, and then Woodall talked for a while, and it goes on from there. So there are various ways to search here, not only via text, but just if you know who the speaker was, or just to see how long people spoke or in what order.
Okay. And now, so we have press conferences, we have floor and committee action. We also have a lot of the public affairs programming in town. Do a search on my name. It's Christopher Adams, and I think you'll come up with some National Press Foundation seminars that we did. So a couple times last year when we had panel discussions on covering the Trump administration or covering the transition, C-SPAN came and broadcast that. And so that kind of thing gets thrown in also, right?
Yes, exactly. So we can look at any number of these. It looks like on December 5th, we covered probably the better part of a day, but it's split into 3 different sections. And so we can go there and see that not only when you spoke, but these other journalists that spoke as well. And you can go just to you, and we can see, looks like your introduction.
Hello, thanks a lot for coming out. My name is Chris Adams. I'm the Director of Training. So this was a panel discussion we had with a political science professor from George Washington University and 2 reporters who was covering transition
lead you through
issues.
a discussion about the
And so that's both archived there, and also the transcript is in there also.
Correct. So we can look at all of your remarks, and then if we just do all speakers, we can kind of see who went first, and then just back and forth throughout the entire program. So if you remembered, if you were watching that or you were there, a specific moment or a specific statement someone said, instead of watching the entire hour again, you could probably search just for that specific remark and find it much easier than just watching the entire hour.
Okay, and so all the kind of panel discussions and sessions that happen at think tanks in Washington, at the Brookings Institution and the American Enterprise Institute, you cover many of those, and how do you decide which ones to cover?
Right. So every day at 3:15 there's a meeting, and they basically decide what's going to be on C-SPAN the next day. Obviously, if the House and Senate are in, we're committed to covering those. So the House will be on C-SPAN, the Senate on C-SPAN 2, and basically our producers get all sorts of events pitched to them, and depending on how many resources we have, how many crews we have, we'll decide which events to cover. And that goes for everything from the Senate Judiciary Committee, Senate Armed Services, to same committees on the House side, and then think tanks from the Brookings Institution to the American Enterprise Institute. And every day it's just a different set of factors. Have we, if a director of an agency testifies before the Senate one day, and the next day they're going to testify in front of the House, do we cover them both days? Do we only cover them one? Is it going to be the same information just before 2 separate committees? It really just depends. So sometimes we'll cover them both days. And sometimes we'll cover a different hearing or we'll cover a discussion instead of showing their second day because it seems like it'll be a lot of the same information just with different people. That meeting's held every day at 3:15, and that's mainly so we can tell our crews and tell the venues what we're going to be covering the next day. Some of those events are at 7 a.m., some of them aren't until 8 o'clock at night. And so usually we have a pretty good idea of what we're going to cover by about 4 o'clock each day. And every day is different, and there are days where there's just not enough of our crews and resources to cover every single thing we want to cover. And then some days Congress is out of session, there's fewer discussions because no members of Congress are here. And so sometimes we cover 3 days of a conference that we might not normally cover when Congress is in session. So it's always different.
Okay. Now, finally, I was hoping you could tell me a little bit about your role as a senior social media specialist at C-SPAN. What exactly do you do, and how does that interplay with searching out things from the video library?
Sure. So a big part of my job is really administering our Facebook, our Twitter pages, other social media accounts, including YouTube and Instagram, just kind of all these new platforms that didn't really exist 10 years ago, and trying to figure out what our presence is on those and how to keep in mind our mission and make sure it's not completely forgotten if we have a Snapchat account, which we do, or the same thing with Instagram. So a lot of the times if we're making a clip, whether it's happened today or happened a decade ago, we still try to make sure nothing's taken out of context. Luckily, a Twitter video, even though the ideal time limit of the Twitter video is less than a minute, we've posted Twitter videos that are up to 10 minutes, and we see them do well even if they're longer than a minute because we try to include an entire Q&A, an entire statement by someone rather than just the soundbite you'll see on the news. It's a little different than long-form programming because we can't share the whole 12 hours. We know most people won't watch the entire 12 hours, but we will share a 2-minute clip rather than 15 seconds. And so we are constantly on Twitter tweeting about what events we're covering, where they're going to air, how to watch them, and then afterwards where you can watch it in case you missed it. Facebook, we also post clips, not quite as many as Twitter, but we try to have a discussion there on what people think about various issues throughout the day. And then on YouTube, we try to also post clips, especially clips that we think might get a lot of traffic, where people, when they want to search for something, search a video, YouTube is usually the first place they go, so we need to have a presence there. So that's a big part of my job. And then finding relevant videos from the video library, whether it's just something that happened last month with the confirmation hearing, or if someone said something that can be used today and it's from a decade ago or longer, we can try to find that in here. Some things we know about and it's easy to find. Some things it's like a needle in a haystack and you see if someone ever said something on topic.
Okay, let's go through an example on that. So a few weeks ago, there was an issue with then Attorney General designee or nominee Jeff Sessions. Describe for me that particular story, and then what did you do to kind of see if there's something interesting in their video library about it?
Sure. So Jeff Sessions, former senator, had his confirmation hearings back in January before the Senate, and the news came out that he had met or at least communicated with people from Russia. And so we went back to his confirmation hearing, and there was an exchange with Senator Franken on just that subject, I believe. So I'm just going to go to Sessions, and we're going to search for Russia. And I'm also going to hit search program text. And so there are several parts in here where Russia is mentioned. I'm also going to add, because I know the question came from Senator Franken, so if I add a person, here's Al Franken. Let's see if it's part 4. Yeah, here it is. So this is part 4 of his confirmation hearing. And I believe it's right towards the beginning of this video that we see Franken ask him about Russia and communications with Russia. And Sessions essentially says he did not have communications with Russia.
Any of those activities. I have been called a surrogate at a time or two in that case.
And then something interesting that we kind of found, and this was actually found by someone that's not at C-SPAN, they happened upon this clip, but they went back and they found Jeff Sessions talking about lying under oath and perjury, but from back when Bill Clinton and the impeachment trial was happening in Washington. So I'm just going to go to Jeff Sessions. I'm going to type in perjury. And it comes up a number of times. But I'm going to go to least recent. And I also know that, as you can see, there are a number of times where it comes up here on the Senate floor, but I know that it was during our Washington Journal segment, which is a call-in. And so here's that one interview. And so in here, I'm not sure if the transcript's working on this one because it tends to be a little bit older. There's a clip of Sessions taking a call and saying no one is above the law, which I believe is right in here. So another user came up with this, and you can watch this clip. So we also took this clip and put it on Twitter and Facebook. So just one of those times where
Keep the Republicans out
you can find someone saying something well over a decade ago.
Well,
and
you know, people
it's sort of
say the
newsworthy today.
Republicans,
We see campaigns constantly going through the video library and they'll find things on their opponents.
Right.
Sometimes they'll do a collection of all the times their candidate has said something on an issue, and they'll just say, we've been for or against this issue going all the way back. So it's used both for and against people, and we've seen it used by both Republicans and Democrats, all sorts of candidates across the political spectrum.
Okay. And so finally, you also search out kind of the unusual or interesting videos that you might find in there that might not directly be related to the hot news of the day. What are some examples of that?
So I will go to my account real quick, and sometimes it's just fun stuff I happen to see. Sometimes it's historic stuff. Chuck Berry just passed away. I went and I wasn't sure if he'd ever been on C-SPAN. Sometimes celebrities testify on certain causes. Chuck Berry had been at the White House for the Kennedy Center honors, and so there's a nice little clip in here of Bill Clinton just talking about Chuck Berry for about 3 minutes. And so not anything groundbreaking, but when someone passes away, if they happen to be on C-SPAN and something very nice like this, we can share that. There's also, we've done lots of stuff recently with cameras in the court, and so I've clipped a bunch of justices from their confirmation hearings talking about cameras in the court, mostly in favor of it. And all sorts of stuff. There's Ashton Kutcher's opening statement. These are just some of the recent things, but I'll go to some of the more popular ones from over the years.
Yeah.
And so Seth Rogen's opening statement was very popular when he testified about Alzheimer's and research. We had the stenographer on the House floor who got up from her seat and yelled from the dais. We also had, and this one, luckily she's okay, we had an intern who we later learned was kind of her first day at the White House, and during a White House press briefing just, I think, got a little overheated and she fainted. This is not something I would tweet out if
it's my understanding that
anything
there's an ongoing
seriously
process as it relates
happened,
to
if
the
she'd hit her head or anything bad, but it was one of those things that
taking
we found out
steps
she was
to press
okay,
stop
she got some
quite a bit.
water.
But at this point, I don't have
and
any
so you
update
can
for
see
you in
it
terms
here.
of the content or the timing of that executive order.
Why is the White House announcing that the president is going to sign the executive order at this time when that could have happened any time over the course of the 5.5 years of the administration?
Yeah. Oh, goodness.
Glad she's okay.
Okay.
Glad she's okay, and again, there's no way we would tweet that out if if it looked more serious or anything, and we made sure there was definitely a given amount of time where I confirmed with our folks at the White House that she was okay, that we shared it. And I think then it just came from my account. It didn't come from C-SPAN in any official capacity.
Okay. Well, it's a fascinating resource that journalists can use on a regular basis. And so I hope our journalist users out there will start to make use of that.
Yeah, I hope so. We always like seeing how people use it. We kind of see it pop up in popular clips on our website, and we try to go, wow, how did someone find this? How did they have this idea? And it kind of spurs us to kind of dig a little deeper sometimes too.
Okay, well, Jeremy, thank you very much for coming.
Thanks for having me.
Okay, and thank you for joining us today from the Evelyn Y. Davis Studios at the National Press Foundation, where we make good journalists better. Today we've heard from Jeremy Art, a social media specialist for C-SPAN, on how to use his organization's vast video archive to help bring your stories to life. Find more webinars and reporting resources at nationalpress.org and follow us on Twitter @NatPress.